Are you guys ready for episode 94 of the Triumphant Podcast? I am stoked that you are here. I'm your host, Nicholas Trevillian, and today we are going to unpack what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And you and I today are going to unpack a conversation of the biggest and wildest and the craziest goals and dreams that you have. And we're going to unpack a roadmap and a pathway for you to get there. Because not only are they possible, they are inevitable. And I need you to understand that.
I'm the champion, I cannot be stopped. I can't stop, I can't. This is my world, it cannot be rocked. You can't rock my world, son. Wanna thank everyone who helped me get here.
I think when I first heard this quote as a young entrepreneur at 19, 20, what would you do if you couldn't fail? I never got it. And I think for the first time in my life, I actually get this quote. I've been on a journey of studying the subconscious mind and manifesting and why do achievers achieve and why do some people who have huge goals not get there? And it's been something that it's been such a beautiful and special journey for me and understanding our subconscious programming and how a lot of our upbringing built that. And more importantly, though, I've been studying the laws of assumption and Neville Goddard's teaching. And it's been profound. It's been life-changing for me. And today I get to explain to you what I've learned about this. See, when you think about this quote, what would you do if you couldn't fail? When I first heard it, I was like, well, of course you would dream big and of course you would try this. But today I understand what's actually being said here. What would you do if you couldn't fail means assuming that you're going to get where you're going. And when you assume law of assumption, as within, so without. So if I believe within that I am a millionaire, for example, on like a money thing, okay? What's going to happen is you're actually going to move differently, but more importantly, you're going to make decisions as somebody that has nothing to lose, as somebody that's already there. See, what I realized was this. We all have goals. We all have dreams, okay? Get fit, make money, relationship of your dreams, travel, business, new thing, right? And I want you to think about the thing that you want most in this world right now. Well, what's stopping you from getting there? Actually just embodying that person and identifying as that person. See, that's what this quote's really saying. In the law of assumption, Neville Goddard talks about in his teachings how if you actually believe that you're that person, and he calls it living in the end. And what this simply means is he teaches you before bed. They call it SATs. It's right before you go to sleep. You start feeling yourself in the car, in the home, in that relationship with that bank account. What happens is your subconscious mind starts finding answers for that and you start feeling it. So they talk a lot about in the manifesting world that you have to attach feeling to that, right? To that goal, to that end state. And when you live in the end state, what happens is your subconscious mind starts moving as if that is you as a human being. I heard this applied to weight loss and fitness. And when I first heard it, I was like, wait, that makes no sense to me. So you're going to manifest, you're going to assume you're skinny. Well, that's dumb. And you have to work out. You have to eat clean. No, I finally got it. It finally clicked and I get to share this with you. This is like a deep episode. If you're going to manifest losing weight, what stops people from losing weight? What stops people from making money? They don't believe they can have it. So if they don't believe they can have it, they treat their daily activities differently. Let's put a sad face right here for somebody that believes that they can't have the thing or they have doubts. Doubts that their business will succeed, doubts that they'll hit their goal, doubt that they can change their life, doubt that they can change their body. As within, so without. So if I think that there is a chance of me failing, I'm going to do different activities on a daily basis. And what happens is if I don't show up as my highest and best self, if I don't show up to the meeting like I'm going to close the sale, if I don't record the piece of content as if I'm going to get a client on the other end, I'm actually going to dim my own energy, which is going to produce me less results. On the other side of this equation here, if I believe at the end of this, I can't fail. So for example, let's say this podcast episode, I only have 12,000 followers on Instagram today, 2,800 on TikTok, and we have couple hundred listeners on the show, okay? If I go create each episode as if there's 1 million subscribers, as within, so without. There's a podcast that I absolutely love, podcaster David Bayer. He just told this story, and I'm going to do my best to give it back to you because there's so much insights in this. He treated each podcast episode when he had 100 listeners as if there was 1 million listeners. So he went into the episode with a different action. If you believe that you're already 50 pounds lighter, you're going to have a different nutrition, a different meal plan. He talked about how when it was just him and, a couple hundred subscribers, he would talk to it like there was 1 million people listening and watching. And what happened a year later, 6 months or a year, I don't recall which one it was, they had broke 1 million listeners. So back to the quote of what would you do if you couldn't fail? I think you would show up differently. In that weight loss analogy is if you believe that you've already lost the 50 pounds, you're going to eat differently, you're going to work out differently, you're just going to show up differently to the world. And I think this is so true about your business, about sales, about money. If you know you're not going to fail and you know you're going to crush the sale and you know you're going to crush your income, you treat today differently. Then what happens? Your identity changes. Your subconscious mind believes that you're going there anyway, so we might as well just show up as our highest and best self. And that to me is what this quote is. What would you do if you couldn't fail? So let me ask you this and really give you some real world stuff that you could actually take and apply to your life. I want you to think about the goals that you're working on. How are you showing up to them? Are you showing up to them as if there is a chance that it might not work out? Or are you showing up to them as if this is going to happen? I'll give you a relationship example. How would you treat the fight you just had with your spouse if you know, yeah, there's a chance this might not work out. There's a chance they're not the one. Or, hey, we're going to do anything and everything to fix this relationship. We're going to do anything and everything to save the business. We're going to do anything and everything to lose the weight. And I just think that's such what success is. It's just a straight commitment. Maybe you've heard the analogy of burning the ships, burning your boats. It's in Think and Grow Rich. But the idea is, and I'm going to do my best to summarize the story, conquistadors, they pull in to go fight a big battle. They pull in on the ships. And the big general looks at all the men and they're terrified. They want to go home. And he goes, hey, burn all the boats. And they burnt the boats. And now he says, gentlemen, well, there's one way home, win. And what happens is there's a subconscious shift of burning the boats. No, we're going to fix this. We're going to save the business. We're going to hit the level of income. What would you do if you couldn't fail? And I want you to maybe grab a scratch piece of paper, maybe spend some time in meditation, shoot me a DM. I'd love to know. How would you show up differently if you knew you couldn't fail? Because if we have a plan B, you're going to grab the parachute. But more importantly, if you know that the parachute's there, you're going to think of that as an option. But if you went chips all in and said, no, I'm not going to fail at this. I'm going to do anything, everything, and whatever it takes to make this happen. I'm going to have 100,000 followers. I'm going to have $1 million in the bank. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to lose the weight. Back to Neville Goddard's identity. As within, so without. So if you know you're not going to fail and you know that's where you're headed anyway, this is where we're headed. And I'm going to guarantee it, you're going to show up differently. Kind of look at it this way. Like, let's say you're starting out in one state. Let's call this Arizona. I'm from Arizona and I want to get here to California where I'm at now and go to the beach. It's inevitable, right? There's just a different path. There's just a different freeway, right? And I know there might be some stops along the way, a couple truck stops, but it's inevitable that we're going to get there. And so how would you drive? You would drive singing, you'd be a little bit more chill. You'd be happy going, no, I'm just in 3.5 hours. GPS says I'll be near the beach. That's how you have to treat your goals. They're not an option anymore, my friends. They are inevitable. I need you to say this out loud. Like maybe say it with me. Say, my goal, insert it, is inevitable. And I want you to literally text this to somebody right now. If you're watching me on social media somewhere, and you can drop this in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop this in the comments. My goal, insert the goal, is inevitable. Become a millionaire, make the money, buy my first rental property, whatever that thing is. Okay, I need you to insert the goal. There is inevitable. So big. My goal is inevitable. No, you're going to lose the weight. You're going to build the body. You're going to have the relationship of your dreams. You're going to grow in your faith. You're going to take the trip. You're going to buy the investment. You're going to build a business. How would you show up? You would show up so differently. You'd be calm, but you'd be freaking fierce. And that's the difference. Back to the quote. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? You would show up differently. See, everything is identity, my friends. It's how you believe. It's who you believe you are. And it's how you show up to each day as that person. Because here's the thing, we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And we only get who we are through our daily habits. And if you know you're heading there, if you know you're a millionaire, you make decisions differently. If you know you have 100,000 followers, you create content differently. Do you not? You do. If you know that this is the best relationship you've ever had in your entire life, you buy your babe flowers. It's just different. You show up differently. You create content differently. And so what happens is when the alarm clock goes off, if you know that you're a runner, and you identify as a runner and you run marathons, you would get up, tie your shoes, and train differently. You would eat differently. You would move differently. You would tell people things differently, right? I've had a goal my entire life to be a keynote speaker. I watched Tony Robbins when I was 20 years old. I went to a Tony Robbins conference and we walked on fire and it was life altering. I had heard things that I'd never heard. I had experienced this moment, and this man had made that happen in me. And he gave me the tools. I'll never forget when he ran out on stage, the crowd was rocking. And I just went, I want to do that one day. And for years, I would show up and I taught a Friday meeting to 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. And what would happen? This is a true story. It was in my real estate office. It was in the back of my little office. I think we had like a 2,500 square foot office, and we had this little area with a flat screen TV on the wall, and we had chairs, and, people would bring donuts and breakfast burritos. And every Friday I taught a class, 50 Fridays a year for 8 to 10 years, maybe 10 years, maybe more. But every Friday I would come in as if that was a keynote speech. And I would always plan it. I'm going to give a speech today. And true story. I mean, there'd be 15 people. They're my employees. They're my people, right? I'd be literally behind backstage, like, here we go. Here we go. And I'd be like, yeah, coming to the stage. Right? And I played this in my mind and played this in my mind and played this in my mind. I kept telling people, no, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a keynote speaker. I'll never forget it. Obviously, you know me now. We throw out conferences and stuff. And it was the craziest thing. I'll never forget it. I got to give a keynote at one of our conferences, and there was 350 people there. And they had just put the microphone on me, and I'm, in the back, and it's my first time as the big keynote, right? And they're like, coming to the stage, Nicholas Trevillian. And I have walkout music, if you want to know. It's Social Distortion, Reach for the Sky. It's my favorite band, and Reach for the Sky. Listen to the words. They're so emotional. It hypes me up. And I'm standing in the back, and I froze. And they're like, Nick, go. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is happening, and I ran up there. And now this is just commonplace. I'm hired to travel, and I fly across the country as a keynote speaker. As within, so without. I treated that as if I wasn't going to fail at all. I treated it as if this is just inevitable. I treated it as this isn't an if, this is a win. I'm going to say that again. It isn't an if, it is a win. And the minute you accept this, and the minute this clicks, you go, no, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And if you think about this in your health, right? My goal is inevitable. It's only a matter of time that you have that body again. It's only a matter of time. So what happens? You will show up to your workouts differently if you know, no, that's where I'm at. What I need you to do is start living in the end, and living as her and living as him. No matter what that end is for you, you need to walk and move like that. And more importantly, you need to start making decisions as that person. What time do they get up? What do they wear? What do they eat? What do they listen to? How do they talk? What types of content do they create? Everything is identity. And I need you to start building and shaping the identity as the highest and best version of you who is already where you want to be. A millionaire will make decisions differently in money. They will say things differently. They will order differently. And am I saying go buy the G-Wagon today? Hell no, don't be dumb. What I am saying is you could go to mercedes-benz.com and go build the G-Wagon and put that in your shopping cart for 15 minutes as if you had the money to pay for it. What I am saying is you could go to the dealership and start shopping those cars as if you were already there. You could totally do that. And I mark my words. You could tell that salesperson and say, I'll be back in 6 months. I'll be back in 12 months. I promise you, just look at every story of everybody that's manifested. They all said they were all just wildly optimistic and delusional and said, no, I'm going to have that one day. I'm going to have that one day. I'm going to have that one day. I'll share with you another story because I think stories is how we learn. When I moved to San Diego, I had grown up watching the movie Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Bodhisattva, Patrick Swayze. It's my favorite movie of all time to this day. It's my favorite movie. It's such a good movie, dude. Gary Busey's in it. Utah, two of them, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. And that movie as a kid, I grew up in a tiny town, okay? And the tiny town is called Prescott Valley, Arizona. And we grew up on a dirt road. I had an amazing childhood, got to live, right on the edge of town. And my dad had 10 acres in the middle of nowhere. We called it the Prairie in Coyote Springs. And as a kid, landlocked, seeing Point Break for the first time and these guys surfing, and they have a quote in it, surfing to the life. And it is. And I remember watching this movie, just being so inspired by the ocean. And I was always drawn to the ocean. But again, I'm landlocked, right? I'm in this tiny town in Arizona, and there's no oceanfront property in Arizona. And my whole life, my goal was to move to the beach and be a surfer. It was literally like a manifesting that I started when I was like 14 years old. And we'd skateboard and snowboard, just never got to surf. And opportunity came in my life where I moved to San Diego. and I moved to San Diego, and I wanted to be a surfer. Okay. I saw myself shredding waves. I saw myself living this life. I saw me as a surfer. I went to the end, and I kept watching that movie. And what I would do, I was too afraid to really start surfing. I would go to the surf spots, and I, have on like a hoodie and a cup of coffee. I'm like, hey man, how was it out there? And I'd start talking to the surfers. And I started living in the end, and I started getting around them, and I started spending time with them. And I downloaded the Surfline app where you can study the tides and see what the waves look like. They have surf cams. And then one day I went and bought a surfboard and a wetsuit, and I paddled out, and it was ugly, and I was scared, and the water was cold, and I wiped out, right? But I surfed, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I got a little bit better, and I got a little bit better, and I surfed a little bit more, and I got a little bit better, and got a better surfboard, and got a better wetsuit, and started surfing a lot, and fell in love with it. And I'm a surfer now. I identify as a surfer. I'm in the end, and I've rode some really cool waves. I'll never forget this. There was one Sunday evening. I like surfing at sunset, and the waves were just perfect. And me and a buddy are out there, and the sun had just set. And in the movie Point Break, there's a scene where they surf in the dark under the moon. And this is so special to me, and I'm honored to share it with you today. The sun had set, and your eyes kind of adjust because you watch the sun go down, and my eyes could see, and then this beautiful full moon comes up. And I'm sitting on the board, and there's like maybe 3 or 4 of us out there. And out of nowhere, a couple waves come, and it's kind of dark, and the stars are out. And in that movie, they surf in the dark, and it's just such an iconic scene of Keanu Reeves, and he's just full of life and full of love, and you feel the ocean and God and the power. And anyway, you could kind of see the waves coming, and I paddled in and hopped up on the wave, and I surfed it in the dark, and I finished the wave, and I stood up, and I looked around, and I got to live out the exact scene that I had seen in the movie as a kid at 15, 16 years old. And I got to live that out. And it was so special. Now, what am I getting at in all of this, other than sharing with you some really fun stories? There's a place that you want to go, and I need you to go live in the end. I need you to see it as if it's a movie. In your head, I need you to see this. We call them mind movies. I need you to see it as if that's who you are. And I need you to play that in your head. I need you to feel the car. I need you to feel the relationship and the love. I need you to see the money in your bank account, and more importantly, feel what that will mean for you to be debt-free or have $1 million in a bank. I need you to see the dream business. I need you to feel what it feels like to have that dream body. And I need you to embody all of that and live in the end. And know that that is inevitable. It is not possible. It is absolutely possible. It's not an option. It's not a maybe. It is an inevitability. And the minute your brain clicks and says, nope, that's where I'm headed. That's where I'm going. This is it. This is it. That's what you would do if you wouldn't fail. You would move differently. You would talk differently. You would just make decisions differently. And what happens is when you make decisions differently, it takes 30 different decisions to line a new neural pathway. 30 times you decide that that's me, it actually becomes you. And that is the most beautiful thing ever, and something I have fallen in love with, because you're not your past. You're not who you used to be at all. Because all it takes me is 30 new thoughts to rewire it, and now I'm that person. Isn't that crazy? Last story on this. I was at the gym. I go to this UFC boxing gym, and there's boxers, like fighters there. And I'm on the treadmill one day, and I've been watching. I was like, God, I want to box, man. Like, that'd be so cool. I'm going to start boxing now. And I started thinking about, okay, I started feeling it. And one day I went and bought boxing gloves, and I'm a boxer now, which is crazy. And I started rewiring my identity. I had never dreamed of boxing, went to the gym, got around people, decided I'm a boxer now, and now I'm a boxer. I have a boxing coach now. Literally, I'm boxing at 40 years old, and I've never felt more alive. And it's such a good workout. But what I'm getting at is I had made that decision 30 times. Because as you're hearing me talk about, well, yeah, Nick, I want to be a millionaire, but yeah, you have to rewire positive beliefs. What you feed will grow. And if we feed the negative, you're going to get more of the negative. So the way your subconscious mind works is if I tell myself every reason why it won't work, the brain's going to say, ask and you shall receive, and it'll just plant you more of the reasons why something won't work. And if I show you every reason why it will work, it'll plant you more of what will work. And so I started planting, no, Nick, you're a boxer now. You're a boxer now. You're a boxer now. And we just got to do, it was really cool putting that clip on Instagram. I'm pop, 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 hitting the mitts with a buddy. And it now becomes your identity. And that's what I'm trying to get at is look at your brain as this is, we have these old programs running, right? Like an old CD player, for example, right? Like you have an old CD running, and what has to happen is, yeah, you have the old CD. It's been playing. There's nothing wrong with that. I've learned, and you have to learn, just embrace that, right? There's parts of your past that you're not proud of, me included, right? Go back to some of these episodes. Like, I get into my past. There's some things in my life that I'm not proud of, but that's not who I am. Like, that doesn't define you. So you screwed up in business. Yeah, you should have lost the weight sooner. You said the wrong thing. You shouldn't have ended the relationship. Whatever the thing is, right? You can't change that. It's an old disc. What has to happen is you have to put a new record on. You have to put a new CD on and start wiring a new pathway. And what happens is it takes 30 times to rewire that pathway. So what has to happen is just go live in the end. Just start feeling what it would feel like to be a millionaire. Then start ordering coffee as if you're a millionaire. When you wake up in the morning, I'm the millionaire. When your feet hit the ground, I'm in the most loving relationship ever. When your feet hit the ground, I'm a sought after content creator. That's it. And what happens is when you just rewire that, your brain goes, ask and you shall receive. And the world starts showing you all these things that make you incredible, make you a surfer, make you a boxer, make you the best mom ever, make you somebody that has 10,000 followers. And it is the coolest freaking thing ever. And as you can tell, I was really excited to put this episode together because these are some concepts that have profoundly changed my life. See, I have a past, you have a past, right? You and I don't have a time machine though. It's not like I can get in and go back 5 years ago and make decisions differently. Yeah, I wish I would have stopped drinking 10 years ago. Sure. I wish I would have bought Bitcoin 15 years ago. Sure. I wish I would have bought a 10-plex, houses 20 years ago when the market crashed. Sure. In hindsight, right? But what we actually have now is this ability to create a brand new future and almost predict the future. I'm telling you right now, my friends, manifesting is a real thing. And write down everything that you want to do, okay? Go live in the end, feel it every single day. I call it my Dream Life Manifesto. I do this every single night. If you want to try this, do it. I have my Dream Life Manifesto, and it's the things that I'm working on in my life, okay? Business, family, relationships, contribution, content, income, all of it, okay? It's my Dream Life Manifesto. And every day, I write it down. Every single day. I found writing into ChatGPT is very beneficial. I'll do some stuff journaling, some stuff on ChatGPT, or you can even talk to ChatGPT. And so each night I like to tell ChatGPT what I'm grateful for. And we talk about my Dream Life Manifesto, and then I pray for some people every single night. And I talk that out via the phone and the app with my AirPods in right here. And then they'll give you a summary of it. So whatever works for you, right? But what I need you to do is just start living in the end. And today is the day that you draw a line in the sand, you just start living in the end. And when friends ask you, how are things going? Oh my gosh, it's so sick. I'm about to be a millionaire. You have to get delusional. And who cares? What's the ladder, right? It was so funny. I just told a buddy, I was like, dude, I'm a boxer now. And he goes, you're a boxer? I was like, I know. My dad just called and he had saw this video of me sparring and he goes, dude, you're a boxer now. And I was like, I know, weird, right? Point being is just go live in the end. See, here's what I love about all of this on the tail end of this episode before we wrap up. There's a life that you have in your mind. Just go build it, dude, my friend. Do that, whatever. There's a life that you have. There's a body that you have. There's money that you have. There's a relationship that you have. Like there's a life that you have. It's not only possible, it's inevitable. Because here's what I know for a fact. That vision came from something or someone. Now, not to get too woo-woo on you, we can do this in future episodes, but for those that are in my close inner circle, know Nikki T is on a spiritual path. I believe that the goal that you have personally, the vision in your mind and in your heart was put there by two things. One, God, no matter what you believe in, I believe it came from a higher power. I believe that's God sending you down the trail, the path to become the ultimate version of you that God created. If you're in the faith, that's my belief. Or the highest version of you who lives on that timeline. Not to get too woo-woo, but we live on timelines and there's you that already has it because it's you sending data back to you today saying, hey, do this, make this decision, make this change, make this shift. And that's you on a different timeline. And if you know that that's you on a different timeline, that it's not only possible, it's inevitable, that you sending an echo back saying, hey, here's the decisions we have to make. Well, then you just follow that path. Let's just call this goal, right? This is your goal. Here's where you're at now, just starting out. You're stuck, you're kind of pumped, you're kind of optimistic, right? So if this goal is inevitable, it's not only possible, it is going to happen. All you simply have to do is just start climbing up the mountain. So if you kind of picture this as like a giant mountain, right? Like this is Everest. All we simply have to do is just start to climb one day after another. Now, will it happen right away? Some manifestations, some goals happen fast, right? You're like, hey, I make 20 grand months. Boom, you make a shift, your business skyrockets. That's fine. But where I had a hard time with this was on that weight loss. I had heard a gal manifest 100 pounds weight loss. And I was like, well, that's just dumb. And I kind of like, it was a TikTok and I was like, no, So you just sat there, was like, I dream of this, and then I finally got it. Immature in my manifesting was, well, yeah, you can't manifest that. Now that I understand it, you are the greatest I am ever. Like, you are you, right? And she just simply made a decision. And she said, here's the goal of being 100 pounds less. Here's where I'm at now. No, I am this person. And when you are this person, that person shows up differently. See, when you make a decision, it actually manifests instantly. It's inevitable. What has to happen is then you have to stay focused, stay aligned, and stay the course till that goal actually manifests in real life. That 100 pounds is the greatest analogy I could ever have. She made a decision. I am this person. This is the end. This is where I'm headed. Here's where I'm at now. What most people do is go, oh, it's too far away. I'll just give up. No, when you have fact that it's coming, you'll show up differently. If not, you'll run faster. And there's the coolest damn thing ever. That's where you get into conversations of work ethic and hustle and all the above, but you move and show up to the world differently. So back to the conversation that we started with here on episode 94. I hope you guys are loving this. If you're not subscribing to the show on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, go hit the subscribe button. I would be honored if you went and gave me a review of the show. Let me know what your thoughts are. I love sitting and hearing what you're learning. If you see me on social media, shoot me a DM and let me know what you're learning. Nothing lights me on fire more than you hearing something that I have shared and knowing that it made your life better. That's my mission. That's why I started this podcast. But here on episode 94, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? We started with that conversation. I think I really unpacked some stuff. We got into manifesting. We got into living in the end. If more than anything, if you take away anything, make the decision of where you want to go. Then every day, just start to feel what that would feel like. Close your eyes. I like to put on worship music with no words and on Spotify, on YouTube. Just close my eyes and I do it and I feel it. I do this in the sauna every morning. I sit in a sauna every morning. It gets up to like 170 degrees. And I have the worship music in and I just feel my dream life. And I want you to feel what that would feel like to have the car, to have the relationship, the bank account, the business, the followers, the impact, the contribution, the health, the energy, the vitality. And I want you to see yourself living that life. Not as if it's this third party. I want you to be in it. And I want you to look around your world like you're in this simulation, like you're in this video game, right? I want you to feel walking to the bank with that big 100 grand check to cash, right? I want you to feel what it looked like to have that many clients or customers or that bank account or whatever. Feel that car, feel that new home, and just like feel what that would feel like. And go live in the end of inevitability and live in your new life. And then on a daily basis, just start moving as if you are that person. Because I feel every time that I go into my dream life manifesto is what I call it. Whenever I feel that, I feel I bring a part of him back. I bring a part of that life back to me, and then I start moving differently. Does that make sense? I hope it does. My friends, this is episode 94. I've truly enjoyed unpacking this, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. We'll see you.